Before we dive into today's mailbag, how many trades happen from when you watch this video until the NFL trade deadline? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Got a $5 super chat from Bryce Blackwell. Thank you very much, Bryce. Everyone spam BB in the comments too. What players do you see being traded to contenders or in general before the deadline or at the deadline realistic options? It's a great question, Bryce. In addition to what I'll answer here briefly, we will have an entire NFL trade candidates video, probably multiple of them, because it's fun. People care about it. We will spend a lot of time on trades before the trade deadline. I think you're looking at teams that are going to sell. Teams like the Saints, could they shop in Alvin Kamara, Cam Jordan, some of those big names, DeMario Davis, if they want to embrace the rebuild? The Jets, could they shop a Breece Hall or someone along those lines? The Titans could almost trade anybody, it feels like. Jeffery Simmons is the big fish name, but maybe Tyler Lockett could be on the block again. He hasn't been that good for them. There's a lot of names. The Dolphins could trade all of their edges outside of Chop Robinson to contenders. That's what smart teams would do. The issue you run into is those teams that are bad, if you trade away your players, you might be getting yourself fired. So I would not be shocked if some of those names end up getting moved. From Lore, what week should the 49ers play Brock Purdy, and which defensive tackle should they trade for before the trade deadline? Oh, good question. I'll go with the defensive tackle part first. The injuries have been a factor here. Once everyone is healthy, I think they're actually in okay shape along the defensive line. Jeffery Simmons is awesome. I don't know if they can realistically afford to go down that path. That might be a little bit too pricey for them to pursue. But could you call the Saints about Nathan Shepard? I believe he overlapped with Robert Saleh in New York. That gives you another piece that's kind of in the Eric Armstead mold of being able to do some inside-outside stuff for you. That's maybe a bit more cost affordable. As for when the 49ers should play Brock Purdy, this is the cop-out answer, but it's the right answer. When he's healthy. That's when you should bring him back. Is it against the Bucs? I don't know. Is it against the Falcons? Is it against the Texans? Is it against the Giants? Don't rush him back like you seemed to do last time, which you called, by the way, on our last mailbag. But when he's healthy, yeah, bring him back. From Joey Chestnuts, so I think that's Joey Chestnut's evil twin. What would it take for a Maxx Crosby trade? I think a lot of dysfunction from the Raiders organization, even more than what we are accustomed to. Look, Maxx Crosby is a Raider through and through. He loves that organization, maybe to a fault even, like some of the greats always have. He just got paid this offseason. He was excited about Pete Carroll. It has been bad in Vegas. It has been worse before, though, in Las Vegas. I think there was more hope this year, but all of the drama and BS that Maxx Crosby has gone through with that organization, he's still hanging out there. He's still loyal to that franchise until it comes of, I don't want to do this anymore. I want out. I don't think they'll do it. That point will eventually come, I think, whether it's this year, next year, 2 years from now, unless they get back on track. I think it would be an expensive trade. At least a first-round pick, probably more. I think his loyalty, until that changes drastically, the Raiders are not going to willingly trade him. So eventually, let's do it this way. Before this year's trade deadline, will the Raiders trade Maxx Crosby? Y for yes, N for no. I know 31 other franchises would love to get him. Will it happen? Y for yes, N for no. The Bright Wolf, Bijan, might win Offensive Player of the Year. Yeah, he might. Although it's funnily enough, only because he hasn't played as many games does he not technically lead the NFL in rushing yards. Although the pace he's been on would put him near that ballpark, but he's been really impactful as a receiver as well. Jonathan Taylor's had himself a pretty darn good season as well, so I wouldn't sleep on that one. But Bijan's been awesome. If he keeps carrying the Falcons, he's going to put himself into that Offensive Player of the Year conversation for sure. DC times Viper. Are the Jags a team to take seriously this season? I'm going to go with yes. It doesn't mean I think they're a Super Bowl team, but I do think we have to take them seriously as a playoff contender. They didn't have that many issues against Carolina in week 1. They beat the Niners, the only team to beat San Francisco this year. They just beat the Chiefs. They beat the Texans. They were a play away from beating the Bengals, who did have Joe Burrow, by the way, in that game. I think we will know for certain how good this Jags team is in 2 weeks. Seahawks and then the Rams. I think that's a London game, by the way. If they win one of those games, given the rest of their schedule not being that challenging, yeah, I think they are a very legit team. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right could get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. It is simple to play. You pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. Get those picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks. You can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. They also allow you to follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy those lineups in one click. Friend, celebrity partner, whatever, you can do it all in the feed tab on Prize Picks. This is one of the football slates we got cooked up here. Less than Justin Fields passing yards. This is the week the fourth quarter BS stops and garbage time stops for Fields. Dylan Gabriel, less than passing yards against Pittsburgh. Deebo Samuel, how about a TD against the Bears? Go download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show. DC times Viper again. Does Baker Mayfield deserve to be the MVP this year? It's either him or Josh Allen to me. I'll say a couple things. It is very early. You can go back and look after the first 5 weeks. Oftentimes, the Week 5 MVP leader does not win the award. There's so many games left to be played. Some players I want to mention as I think legitimate contenders, people who are in the running here. I think Baker is clearly one of them. I've been very impressed by his play, by his performance, everything else in there. I think Josh Allen is an obvious one. I had thought that, maybe Justin Herbert's year was going to come, but he's kind of faded a little bit. Other top odds getters right now, Patrick Mahomes, although they got to start winning more games if he's going to win that award. If Jordan Love can get the Packers back on track. Herbert, we mentioned. Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, the Cowboys actually make the playoffs, which is going to be a tough one. It is going to go to a quarterback whose team made the playoffs and probably exceeded expectation. That's going to be the tricky bit. From the Jungian theory, who do you blame for the Cardinals losing Titans? Kyler Murray or the OC? Yes. Look, that game, the comedy of errors involved is unbelievable. You had, in no particular order, Kyler Murray running around and just flipping it 4 yards forward for the most blatant grounding ever. You had DeMarcado busting an almost 80 touchdown, just dropping the ball at the goal line. That would have been, I think, 27-6. Game's over. All you had to do was just score right there, and the game's over, and we're not having this conversation. 28-6. Yeah, 28-6. What are you doing? Kyler, make a play down the stretch, dude. One time. Don't let the ball hit your face mask and not dive on it. He pulled a Cam Newton. Also, you make the pick and you fumble it for a touchdown? Just unreal comedy of errors. That's the type of game that that can break you. You got to recover because that went so wrong so many different ways to lose to a team that didn't deserve a win, frankly. So my answer is yes. Everybody gets blamed there in Arizona. From Donnie Boy, Chris Olave to the Giants. I am unconvinced the Saints are actually going to trade away Chris Olave. I also wonder although look, the Giants need a wide receiver to pair with Link Neighbors long-term and someone to help out Jackson Dart short-term. And you might be able to convince me, hey, F the picks. We have to make Jackson Dart work. Let's give him a real, legitimate playmaking receiver so it's not Jalen Hyatt, who can't do anything, 5-yard and fall down Wan'Dale Robinson. He's actually better at the catch, but still. And Darius Slayton, who just runs fast. Like, they need a real playmaker in that wide receiver room. So you can convince me on that. The Giants are also not good, and I wonder if like it makes sense for them to be trading away assets when they might have an early pick. But if you get something back good if you're the Saints, maybe you consider it. Let me see your trade ideas in the comments section of today's show. Teams for players, let me know what you're thinking in the comments section of today's video in terms of trade ideas. From Christian, who I think is just trolling me directly right now. Can you see A.J. Brown being traded? I don't see it. I'm going to keep hearing how much A.J. Brown is frustrated by the organization. We mentioned it in our rumors video earlier on Tuesday. The Eagles would lose like $9 million in cap space over the next 2 years combined if they flipped A.J. Brown right now. And that actually is like a little bit less savings because they're already eating some of the money of this year's base salary. I don't see it happening. I get that he's frustrated. It's this is very weird to say. They just won a Super Bowl. They can't be that mad about it, right? Like, they got to be okay in the end. So I think it's a little bit of extra drama. A.J. Brown, he's a diva. You want a little bit diva in your wide receivers. It's okay. I don't think a trade happens. Eric Simmons, should the NFL do overtime like college football does? I think so. Yes, I would move back to starting field position. Like, maybe I'd put it at midfield. Maybe I'd do that. But I do think, I don't believe in ending in ties. So however you want to go where there's no ties, let's do it. I think it was Jared who was like, oh, but the TV windows. Okay, don't do a commercial then. Oh, but that's not really why it's an issue. Like, that's not really why. Like, come on, guys. For any other news that happens, rumors, of course, as well, we have you covered here on Chat Sports. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. Christian, if the Ravens lose another game, the season is over. If not, how many more games they have to lose before we consider the season is over? So I'm gonna say this. I don't think they're gonna beat the Rams on Sunday. If they do, everything looks upright. The reason why I'm not gonna write off the Ravens yet is they have their bye. This is their schedule after the bye. Home against the Bears, at the Dolphins, at the Vikings, at the Browns, home against the Jets, home against the Bengals, home against the Steelers, at the Bengals, home against the Patriots, at the Packers, at the Steelers. So they're going to be favored in maybe all, if they can beat the Bears and get things back on track, they're going to have, I think, a chance to win all but 2 of those games, maybe 3 of them. That makes their margin for error essentially 0. But until they get to the 7-loss column before they make it 500, I'm not going to quite write them off, but the odds are very much stacked against them. It is not going to be easy for Baltimore. And if you're worried about them, you should be. From Ben, Jeffery Simmons trade coming before the trade deadline. I actually wouldn't be shocked. He's playing good football. He's expensive. Tennessee could get a good asset for him. I wonder if, in the end, the solution involved is Tennessee keeps him for now and they try to save their head coach's job. Because you trade away Simmons, I do wonder if that's it for Brian Callahan. Name a player, big name or small name, who you think ends up getting dealt. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. NK Gaming with a very creative trade idea. Kayvon Thibodeaux for T. Higgins. I like your thought process there. I think the Bengals say no. They went through too much to keep T. Higgins and make him the focal point of the offense along with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They did invest first-round picks in Shamar Stewart and Myles Murphy. I think that's a very clever idea from the Giants' perspective. I think for the Bengals, though, having just paid T, the money isn't particularly strong in terms of the savings there. It's a very clever thought. It's a very NBA-style trade. I mean that in a good way. I think for the Bengals, though, Higgins, Chase, and Burrow just aren't going to get dealt anytime soon.